I just got back from being out of province for 2 weeks. I didn't know how long my trip was going to be. It was an emergency. And now that I'm back, let's take a look at how my plants survived 2 weeks without water. Now I had some tops of root vegetables that I had been growing, and they have succumbed to the lack of water because they don't have deep roots. And if your plants don't have deep roots, also like these tomato plants, they were to be potted on. Unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to do that before having to leave. I'll see how well they do. I'm trying to bring them back to life, but I also have to make sure that I'm watching any plants that have suffered this lack of water for any disease or pests that might attack these weak plants now. My tomato plants that are upstairs that have deeper roots survive just fine. 2 weeks with no water. Before I left, I gave everything a really good dose of water, but that can cause some problems also. These potatoes were just an afterthought of me. Every year I take some of my own potatoes from the prior season and pot them on. They have grown great, but they are suffering white spots, and that's I think edema. So that is from overwatering before I left, because I wanted them to survive for however long, and then drying out, and then of course I've watered them heavily when I got back again a bit. So I think I will be potting those on now, those potatoes, and hopefully maybe I'll cut away the leaves that suffered, and the new growth should be fine. Here's some seedlings that were pepper seedlings. They did not survive. Again, did not have deep enough roots or enough soil around it to hold moisture. But this little tiny Tim tomato did survive, and that's because it's a really old seedling, not growing on much because I haven't potted it on yet. So it's really interesting to see what did survive. This is, it looks like a type of kale. It's gone, to be expected, but I have other kales that were larger in a deeper pot and had deeper roots. I had to trim away the dead leaves that certainly were here. These were all wilted down, but this is now a day after watering. They've piped right up, so I'm going to be able to save this kale. It is now ready to be potted on, and I'll just pot it. Being a brassica, I can pot it deeper. So I think they're going to do just fine. Something that did surprise me was I had left some basil seedlings that hadn't popped up before I left, but in the 2 weeks, and I watered them before I left, they have popped up. However, the Crimson King only has one, and I can see 3 that have not made it. They're fallen over and gone. But my regular basil, the Genevieve style, came up really well. So that's fun to see. My mustard looked really worse for wear. I've trimmed some leaves, watered. It still feels not as strong. It's getting there. It will come back. So that's neat. Some of the lettuce didn't make it. Obviously, lettuce needs a lot of water. But the larger plants, again, I have about 3 that have survived. I'll pot those on to that one anyways. Yeah, very interesting to see what survives. Of course, you need to ensure that your temperature can remain constant. We lowered our heat to 18 degrees before we left, but that was sufficient for the plants, and our humidity always stays at a constant, which is very important. If you're going away, say vacation, I was in a rush, watered, the night before. We left at 4 in the morning in the dark. So I didn't have time to move my plants, but ideally if you're going on vacation, move your plants out of the direct sunlight just a little further away so they're not drying out, thirst quenched from the sun, just to get it more of a partial shade, and they should last well also. Succulents can last 3 weeks up to a month, I'm sure, without water. So my aloe vera plants were perfect. They looked actually really, really well. My pepper plants survived. The ones that were in a deeper root, let me get one, have survived really well, except for the seedlings. But the ones that I had potted on already, now there are leaves that I had to cut off again at the bottom, but they're doing really well and are about to flower actually. These are for my indoor peppers and indoor tomatoes. My parsley did really well. Now my other herbs here behind me, rosemary, you know, that has that thick leaf, almost a succulent leaf, you know, they do well, the woody rosemary. And my chives survived really well. But my oregano is really not doing well. It may come from the roots and start again, so we'll see. Now, if you know you're going and have time to prepare, you can certainly buy some items that would help you. They have the glass balls, or a glass bottle upturned would go in to slowly release water, or wicking. You could, you know, dig some string down below and have a bucket of water here to slowly feed your plants also. This plant is my cucumber, which amazingly is half okay. There's even a cucumber. Look, pleased with that. A lot of not so good leaves here. I'll take those off when I get a minute. But that's crazy that's done so well. Here's some of the parsley I mentioned. They'll get potted on. And again, the pepper's doing well. This is more kale. I'll cut the dead leaves off and pot them on. They're perking up. I didn't think they were going to survive, but it looks like they're going to. Now, these beans did not make it, and they didn't even pop up here. But they're toast. Green onions, surprisingly, they were all wilted over. They've perked up with my watering now. Pleased with that. Leeks did not do so well. Lack of water, you can see that these they died. So I'm going to have to try to, very late in the game, get some more leeks seeded. There's another lettuce that needs to be potted on, a wee pepper, all doing okay. I missed harvesting some beans. They've dried off. This one's getting a bit old and large beans. But there's some younger ones coming. And they do not look healthy. I will watch these. They may have to go. Lots of flowers coming. But sick plants get diseases. So I'm back home. Going to try to take care of these. But I also have to start now. I've got some over here. I'm behind on my schedule for some of the seeding that I would do late February. And I've still got, I mean, it won't hurt at this point, but I would have liked to have done these maybe 2 weeks before. So I've got to get my Brussels sprouts in, my celery started, and my globe artichoke started. So my celery and Brussels sprouts, I'm going to start off the seeds just in with drainage in regular potting soil, not seed start, because I want them to grow on a bit, but those I will pot on into modular, and then anything else that's needed. Usually modular is fine for these. Brussels sprouts I sometimes will pot on into a bigger pot. But time for those, and I have modular for my globe artichoke. I just put them in there. They will be transplanted once into a larger pot before they will be time for those to go outside, so I've got to get going on that. What else? Oh, in Newfoundland here, they're starting to tap the trees, the maple trees already. I was shocked to see that, but again, the weather is so different these days. So I've got to get Bruce on to drilling a hole for me for our maple syrup, and we'll get going on that. So after 2 weeks without watering, some didn't make it, some did. Plants always amaze me though. Well, that's all for now. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.